Welcome in, everybody, to our deep dive today. We're going to kind of like journey right into the heart of the Dajia Mazu Pilgrimage in Taiwan.
Okay.
And it's a huge event, brings in like hundreds of thousands of people every year.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to like figure out what are the core values and spiritual significance it has for everybody taking part.
Yeah.
And to like steer us through this whole thing, we've got like a super interesting mix of sources.
Right.
We got some academic research. There's a master's thesis that looks at the pilgrimage through like the lens of aesthetics and power and consumption.
Interesting.
Even some news articles, that capture the hype around it.
Yeah. What's really fascinating about this pilgrimage is that it's not just like a religious thing,
Yeah.
It gives you like a really unique way to understand Taiwanese society as a whole.
Yeah, that's what I'm really pumped to get into.
Yeah.
And speaking of getting into it, let's start with like just how big this thing is.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the descriptions in the thesis and the news articles are just wild, like massive crowds, this incredibly elaborate procession with all kinds of performance troops.
Right.
Rituals like happening day and night. It's just nonstop,
Yeah.
like vibrant display of devotion.
Yeah. It's truly like a sight to see,
Yeah.
but to like really grasp its meaning. We got to look at it through an anthropological lens.
Yeah.
Like, think about the role of rituals, especially ones as intense as this pilgrimage.
Yeah.
They're not just symbolic actions. They actually have the power to like shape and reinforce beliefs.
Wow.
They create like a bridge between like the regular everyday world and the supernatural.
I see what you're saying. It's like you're stepping into like a totally different reality, right?
Right.
Leaving behind the ordinary stuff and connecting with something much bigger.
Exactly. And like in the context of the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage, like the physical hardship that people go through, walking for days, sleeping in these temporary shelters, it all becomes like a real tangible way to express their devotion.
Right.
It's a way for them to like achieve some spiritual transformation.
So it's more than just this big flashy event. There's like a much deeper personal meaning woven into it all.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how does the pilgrimage reflect like the social fabric of Taiwan?
Well, that's where it gets even more interesting. The thesis really digs into how the procession is organized,
Yep.
the different groups like vying for status, the involvement of local communities. It all mirrors the social hierarchies and cultural values that already exist in Taiwanese society.
It's like the pilgrimage becomes like a miniature version of Taiwan itself.
Right.
I'm thinking about what the thesis author said about that competition to carry the palanquin,
Yeah.
or the prestige that comes with being in certain performance troupes.
Those are great examples. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is where like the ideas of sociologist Pierre Bourdieu come in about capital and symbolic power.
Okay.
Participating in the pilgrimage, especially in these really visible roles, can be seen as a way to gain social and symbolic capital.
Interesting.
It's a way to show off your status and prestige within the community.
It makes me think of those families who are so proud to say, like, our ancestors carried the palanquin like for generations.
Exactly.
It's like earning bragging rights, but with this deep cultural and spiritual significance.
Right.
But we can't ignore the fact that the pilgrimage is also this massive event in like the political and economic world too, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can't separate the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage from those aspects.
The news articles are packed with stories about politicians like scrambling for photo ops,
Right.
the media frenzy around the whole thing, the economic boost it gives to local businesses.
And then remember that whole controversy about the religious direct flights to Mazu in mainland China?
Oh, yeah.
Like the pilgrimage actually became a bargaining chip in cross-strait relations.
It's kind of crazy how something rooted in faith can be like thrown onto the political stage like that.
It's a perfect example of what scholars call Mazu politics,
Wow.
Because it's so big and so culturally influential, the pilgrimage has become this platform for politicians to maneuver and a powerful symbol of Taiwanese identity.
Right.
It shows how religion and politics are often like intertwined, especially in a place as complex as Taiwan.
So we have this fascinating mix of personal faith, social dynamics, and political theater.
Right.
It makes me wonder, what about like the individual stories?
Yeah.
Like what makes people want to go on this grueling journey in the first place?
That's where the thesis really shines. It shares these compelling accounts of people's personal journeys and highlights all the different reasons why they participate.
Interesting.
For some, it's a deeply personal act of devotion, a way to connect with Mazu and ask for her blessings.
What?
For others, it's about keeping up a family tradition or seeking some spiritual guidance.
Right.
And for many, it's about the sense of community,
Yeah.
The chance to connect with something bigger than themselves.
It's like a tapestry of all these different individual experiences woven together by this shared pilgrimage.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking about like the challenges that come with an event, this massive, like the commercialization, for instance.
Oh, right.
Some of the sources bring up concerns about the lines between faith and consumerism getting blurred.
Yeah, you're hitting on a crucial point. As the pilgrimage keeps growing in popularity, it naturally attracts commercial interests.
Right.
You got Mazu-themed merchandise marketing campaigns targeting pilgrims,
Yeah.
and the development of what some call the Mazu economy.
It makes you stop and think, where does faith end and consumerism begin? I mean, you can find everything from Mazu keychains to Mazu energy drinks.
Right.
It raises some interesting questions about how commercialization impacts the authenticity and spiritual meaning of the pilgrimage.
And that's where the debate gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Some critics say that all this commercialization cheapens the experience and exploits people's faith just to make money.
Right.
While others suggest it gives people new ways to engage with and express their devotion in a modern context.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Right.
It really gets you thinking about how faith and tradition are changing in a world that's changing so fast.
Exactly. The Dajia Mazu Pilgrimage isn't like some frozen in time thing. You know? It's a living, breathing tradition that adapts and transforms in response to all these different forces, including commercialization.
Right.
It shows that dynamic back and forth between tradition and modernity that's happening all around us.
It's like the pilgrimage itself is on its own journey of evolution, mirroring the changes in Taiwanese society and the world as a whole.
Yeah, and as we look closer at the personal experiences of the people taking part, we'll see how these bigger forces shape their individual journeys of faith and devotion.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating. With all the spectacle and the commercial stuff, it's easy to forget about the really deep faith at the heart of this pilgrimage.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just about asking for blessings or enjoying the party.
Right.
The thesis author really stresses that the Dajia Mazu Pilgrimage is about pushing your limits, both physically and spiritually.
It's a real test of endurance. People are walking for miles every day, often with barely any sleep and very little comfort.
Yeah.
This hardship is seen as a way to show their devotion to Mazu.
The thesis uses this phrase that really sticks with you, transformative suffering.
Right.
It's not just about putting up with pain, it's about coming out of the experience changed.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean for the people involved?
Well, it's about going beyond what you think you're capable of and connecting with something bigger than yourself.
Right.
This whole idea of connecting to something bigger ties into the concept of communitas.
Communitas, I've heard that term before, but can you remind me what it means in this context?
Sure. Communitas, as described by anthropologist Victor Turner, is this feeling of shared experience and social leveling that happens during these really intense rituals.
Okay.
Think of it as a temporary pause on the normal social hierarchies where everybody's united by this common goal.
Yes. It's like that feeling you get at a concert or a sporting event when everyone is just totally caught up in the moment, connected by this shared experience.
Exactly. And in the Dajia Mazu Pilgrimage, this sense of communitas is so strong.
Yeah.
You have people from all walks of life, rich and poor, young and old, all coming together to be part of this shared journey.
The thesis points out how people form these incredible bonds during the pilgrimage.
Right.
They help each other out, share food, offer support.
Yeah.
It's really heartwarming to see that amidst all the chaos and craziness, there's this strong undercurrent of compassion and human connection.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
The pilgrimage has both chaos and order, spectacle and personal devotion, tradition and modernity.
Right.
It's like a mini version of all the complexities we see in the world.
It makes you appreciate how these seemingly opposite things can exist together and even make each other stronger.
Yeah.
But speaking of complexity, we can't ignore the role of politics in all this, especially with that Mazu economy you mentioned before.
Right.
It seems to go way beyond just street vendors and souvenir shops.
It does. The pilgrimage has become big business, and politicians know how popular it is. As our sources point out, they see it as a chance to connect with voters and show how devout they are.
Right.
They participate in rituals, donate to temples, and sometimes even use the pilgrimage as a platform to push their own agendas.
So we see how this ancient ritual has become intertwined with the modern political landscape.
Right.
It's like a stage where faith and politics collide with all the complications that come with that.
It says a lot about how powerful religion and ritual are in shaping social and political life.
Yeah.
And that's especially true in a place like Taiwan, with its unique and often turbulent history.
But it's not all smooth sailing, is it?
No.
There seemed to be some pushback against this blatant politicization of the pilgrimage.
Absolutely. Some critics say that politicians are exploiting the pilgrimage for their own benefit.
Yeah.
And that it takes away from the spiritual meaning of the event.
Yeah, some of the news articles quoted locals and participants who were worried that the focus was shifting away from faith and towards political showmanship. It makes you think about how to balance respecting tradition with navigating the realities of the modern world.
It raises the question of authenticity.
Yeah.
What does it mean for a ritual to be authentic in a world where tradition and modernity are always bumping into each other?
Right.
How can the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage hold on to its spiritual core while adapting to the influences of politics, media, and commercialization?
That's a deep question.
It is.
It seems like there's no simple answer, especially when you think about all the different perspectives and motivations of everyone involved.
Yeah.
It's something we'll probably keep wrestling with as the pilgrimage continues to change.
Indeed. But with all the complexities and controversies, it's important to remember that for many people, the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage is still a deeply meaningful expression of their faith and cultural identity.
Right.
It's proof of the lasting power of belief and the human need to connect with something larger than themselves.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a question that keeps coming up in our sources. What does this pilgrimage tell us about Taiwanese society as a whole?
That's a great question. We've talked about it as a microcosm of Taiwanese society reflecting its layers of history, politics, and faith.
Right.
But how does it fit into a global context, especially with the impact of globalization on cultural traditions?
That's a good point. As Taiwan becomes more integrated into the global economy,
Yeah.
it faces this challenge of preserving its cultural traditions while also embracing modernity.
Right.
And we see this tension playing out within the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage itself.
Exactly. We've already talked about the commercialization aspect.
Right.
But the thesis also mentions how media and technology are shaping the pilgrimage experience.
Precisely. The pilgrimage is now like super mediated.
Yeah.
It's broadcast on live TV, streamed online, shared all over social media.
You can even follow the procession live using GPS tracking.
It's incredible. It's almost as if the pilgrimage itself has become a global event.
And that raises questions about how these new forms of media are affecting the way people experience and understand the pilgrimage.
It makes you wonder if the virtual experience can ever really capture the intensity and emotional depth of actually being there,
Yeah,
walking alongside hundreds of thousands of other pilgrims.
that's a valid point. But it's also important to remember that these new technologies are making the pilgrimage accessible to way more people than ever before.
Right.
People who might not be able to physically go can still connect with the event and experience it in their own way.
It's interesting to think about how the pilgrimage is both adapting to and shaping the forces of globalization.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic process. And as we wrap up our deep dive,
Okay.
I think it's worth highlighting another theme that comes up in our sources.
Right.
The Dajia Mazu pilgrimage as a form of cultural resistance.
Ah, yes, that's crucial to think about. Remember our discussion about the political side of the pilgrimage, especially in relation to mainland China.
Of course, the religious direct flights, the controversy over Mazu politics,
Yeah?
and the debate about whether the pilgrimage was being used as a tool for political influence by both sides of the strait.
Exactly. In that context, the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage can be seen as an assertion of Taiwanese cultural identity,
Okay.
a way of separating Taiwanese Mazu beliefs and practices from those on the mainland.
It's like saying, this is our tradition, our faith, and it's different from yours.
Right.
It's a powerful statement, especially given the complex history and political relationship between Taiwan and mainland China.
Exactly. And this idea of cultural resistance is even more apparent because the pilgrimage has such a strong focus on local traditions and customs.
Okay.
The specific rituals, the performance troops, even the food and music that are part of the procession.
Yeah.
All of these show the richness and diversity of Taiwanese culture.
It's almost like a celebration of everything that makes Taiwan unique.
Right.
A way of preserving and showcasing its cultural heritage on a massive scale.
Yes, and in a world where globalization can sometimes make cultures too similar,
Why?
events like the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage remind us how important it is to preserve local traditions and cultural identities.
It shows that even in a world that's rapidly changing, tradition and modernity can coexist and even enrich each other.
Absolutely.
It's really amazing how the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage can be about so many things, from these personal journeys of faith to like the complexities of cultural identity and these big global forces at play.
Yeah, it really shows just how dynamic Taiwanese society is.
Right.
And you can see this dynamic nature and how the pilgrimage changes and evolves over time, too.
Okay.
The thesis author points out that while the pilgrimage has these ancient roots, it's not stuck in the past.
Yeah.
It's constantly being reinterpreted and reshaped by the people who participate in it.
That makes me think about all the different generations involved.
Right.
You have those who have been doing this for decades, carrying on family traditions.
Yeah.
And then you have younger generations bringing their own perspectives and ways of engaging with the pilgrimage.
It's this fascinating interplay between continuity and change.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder what's next for the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage. How will it keep evolving in a world that's becoming even more interconnected and technology-driven?
We've talked about the influence of globalization and technology.
Right.
I wonder if the sources make any specific predictions or mention any concerns about the future of the pilgrimage.
One of the things that keeps coming up is this tension between preserving the authenticity of the pilgrimage and adapting to what the modern world demands.
Okay.
Some experts worry that as the pilgrimage gets more commercialized and mediated, it risks losing its spiritual core.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
It's like trying to keep the true essence of something precious while still letting it grow and change.
Right.
It makes me think of those who want a more traditional approach,
Yeah.
stressing how important it is to stick with the original rituals and customs.
And then you have those who are all about innovation,
Yeah.
saying that incorporating technology and modern elements can actually make the pilgrimage experience better and reach a wider audience.
It seems like finding that balance is key.
It is.
Preserving the core values and spiritual meaning of the pilgrimage, while also letting it adapt and thrive in a changing world.
Exactly.
It's a conversation that will probably go on for generations to come.
Yeah, it's a conversation worth having.
For sure.
Because at the end of the day, the future of the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage is in the hands of the people who believe in its power and keep its traditions alive.
Right.
Whether it's through actually walking the difficult journey, participating in the lively rituals, or even just sharing the stories and meaning behind it, each person helps shape its legacy.
It reminds us that tradition isn't something static, frozen in time.
Yeah.
It's something alive that changes with each generation, each individual experience, each step taken on that long and winding road.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
And I think that's what makes the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage so captivating.
I agree.
It shows us the lasting power of faith, the beauty of cultural expression, and the human capacity for connection and renewal.
It really does. And as we wrap up this deep dive, we hope you've come away with a deeper understanding of the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Not just as this big spectacle, but as a reflection of the human spirit in all its complexity and beauty.
I think we have.
We encourage you to check out the links to our source material in the episode description.
Yeah, definitely.
So you can dive even deeper into this fascinating topic.
Until next time, keep diving deep.